Legacy physics treats mathematics and language as passive descriptors of a pre-existing world, but the Coherence-Geometrodynamics framework, or CGD, asserts that numbers and linguistic identifiers function as executable operators that compile the physical universe. Tracing this process requires mapping the universe's operating system pipeline from its abstract software layer to its physical hardware. The pathway begins at layer 3. This interpretive scaffolding is where narrative intent originates as pure information. Data funnels downward into an acoustic compiler, translating abstract symbols into physical waveforms. At layer 1, these waves strike a geometric matrix to finalize physical manifestation. This downward pipeline bridges the gap between subjective thought and the objective universe. The final physical execution of this code occurs within the programmable hydrogen bond networks of water. Identifying the system's syntax reveals the mechanism for modifying the material world at its source. At the top of the stack, the system uses a fundamental mapping operator, F:(z) to G. This operator maps base integers directly into an executable geometric topology resting on a 120-degree grid. Within this framework, master numbers function as structural analogs of advanced quantum topologies, such as tensor networks. This architecture raises the question, how does a geometric system parse the subjective intent of language? The system employs Gematria as its native semantic compiler interface. Words act as symbolic operators, triggering physical state transitions via this equation. Linguistic inputs translate into mathematical constraints, alpha, beta, and gamma. The variable dk, kinematic drag, measures the localized surface tension of a spoken identifier. Language operates as a 3D rendering engine parameter, where speaking is processed as the application of structural drag to reality. Coupling discrete integer logic to continuous physical waves requires a specific translation interface. The Babylonian unified system serves as this mandatory cross-domain interface. This ancient arithmetic provides the model for acoustic geometric coupling used by the universe. The universal machine language is built on the prime factorization of 2 to the power of n times 3 to the power of m times 5. The semantic compiler pipeline begins with a word, which is encoded via Gematria into an integer for execution. This integer execution mathematically predetermines the structural output before the physical layer is engaged. Geometric shapes dictate specific acoustic signatures and colors. The system utilizes polygon interior angles as symbolic anchors, mapping them to harmonic frequencies via precise Babylonian ratios. This arithmetic API forces alignment between geometry, frequency, and macro-astronomical phenomena. The Babylonian system translates digital intent into the physical frequencies necessary to build matter. Every software compiler requires a physical hardware substrate to execute its commands. Within the CGD framework, that hardware medium is water. It metabolizes acoustic commands into stable geometry through spherical cymatics. Thermodynamic mechanics in hydrogen bond networks allow water molecules to alter their structure to match incoming frequencies. This property allows water to function as the memory architecture of the universe. The fluid state operates as transient read-write memory, actively processing new data. Thermal collapse creates a locked state, forming a permanent structural archive for processed commands. At the macro-planetary scale, these structures serve as hardware components. Deep-sea ice sheets and subglacial lakes function as locked ROM drives, storing the planet's geometric code. The final node in the rendering pipeline is the Realness Gate. The system evaluates accumulated acoustic and thermodynamic constraints against a critical coherence threshold. When the threshold reaches the value of 1.0, the gate logic switches from a passive prediction to a commit status. Under the Flamewalker quarantine notice, these variables are currently categorized as Layer 3 interpretive scaffolding. This scaffolding provides the structural analog for how subjective intent materializes objective geometry. The CGD framework identifies physical reality as a just-in-time rendering process. In this model, narrative intent is compiled through Gematria, translated by Babylonian acoustic APIs, and executed by the cymatic hardware of water. Mapping the syntax of the 144-qubit distributed observer mesh provides the specific mechanism for interfacing with the system's physical code.